Hi, everybody. Hope you're well. So, today there are actually two different companies which are doing IPOs, initial public offerings, and floating on two different stock markets. One being Coinbase, the largest US cryptocurrency exchange, and another being Pensionbee, a pension provider and platform mainly based in the UK. Now, I just thought I would do a quick video on whether or not it's a good idea to generally invest in initial public offerings. And what I'm going to do is sit back and allow Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett to just quickly give their thoughts on investing in IPOs in general. And then I can just add a few points in at the end. Enjoy. Take it away, Charlie.
I would say that in 54 years, well, I don't think Berkshire's ever bought a new issue. I mean, the idea of saying the best place in the world I can put my money is something where all the selling incentives are there, commissions are higher, the animal spirits are rising. I mean, that's going to be better than 1,000 other things I can buy where there is no similar selling enthusiasm and the desire to get the deal done and extra commissions.
So basically, there in a nutshell, he's saying that Berkshire Hathaway, the company that he's run for the last, I don't know, something like 55 years, they've never bought an IPO because, well, basically in a nutshell, he's just saying that it's just a terrible time to buy whenever, like, he's not saying that things can't make a profit, but he's saying that all the selling incentives are there. So people are basically trying to make a quick win. People are trying to maybe buy it and then quickly capitalize on any short-term movements upwards in order to sell off. So there's so much hype and there's so much focus and attention on an IPO, especially one as large as this Coinbase one's potentially going to be the biggest IPO ever. Estimates are that it's going to start at $100 billion. Now that's an approximate; they can't be sure until it goes live, as it's being directly placed in the market, and the market will, depending on the supply and demand, will show what it actually ends up being in terms of the overall market valuation once it's launched and live. But yeah, he's basically saying that animal spirits are really high, so people are kind of euphoric and they're excited because there is so much hype, and that's not typically a good time to be investing. If anything, that's a good time to be offloading shares. Well, let them continue.
It's the single best thing to buy on a given day. I mean, it's
I can't think of a time we've ever done it.
Yeah.
Ever bought an IPO?
Yeah, never bought one.
Yeah. How can it be?
They don't even call us.
Yeah, but how can it be the best single thing to use your money for in a given day is something that they got everybody in the world out pushing it. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I'm not saying that necessarily what we're buying is going to work out better, but there have to always be better things than one single issue. If you make one decision on investing, if you can't find something among all the choices we see that is better than something that and like I say, the commissions they've come down, I think, now on this, but I mean, the highest commission thing that a stock salesman could sell to securities was the new issue. So you have all this push behind it. We like to buy things where nobody's making a dime selling them to us.
Charlie, just specifically on some of these companies, and I won't talk about Uber versus any of the others, but a lot of these companies are coming very late in the cycle. They've had massive private capital that's been put to work to this point, and they still have massive losses and the need for more capital.
What's even worse than that, some of them have preference for each round, and so the rounds aren't really fair rounds. There's a lot of lying in modern finance.
So you're not in favor of any of these big
I don't like lying.
Man is a legend.
What do you think of these? I ask this because we have a lot of retail investors who watch and who are looking at this and they feel the excitement behind it.
Well, you get any wonderful advice from us about buying IPOs?
Whenever you buy a stock, let's say you're buying General Motors, 1.4 billion shares out. We'll say the stock's 40, it's a little below that. You should be able to take out a one-page sheet of paper and say, I am buying the General Motors company at $56 billion because. And if you can't answer that question, if you can't write that out, then you'll go on to something else. And if you're buying Berkshire, you have to say, I am buying Berkshire Hathaway at $500 billion because, and if the answer isn't something you can write, you can't say I'm buying it because my neighbor thinks it's going to go up, or because everybody's talking about it on CNBC this morning, or whatever it may be.
Or I like to ride around an Uber.
Yeah, no, you have, yeah, that's the question you answer. Now, when you buy groceries, buy everything else, you can answer that question. But if you can't answer it on something that you're involving your savings of many years for, why in the world should you? Why should you be doing it?
Brilliant stuff. Right, so just a couple of quick articles. Bitcoin at record highs as Coinbase prepares for $100 billion listing. In early March, Coinbase shares were trading as private stock, so before they're floating on this IPO, at a roughly $90 billion valuation, raising speculation that today's debut could be valued at $100 billion, becoming the largest direct listing ever. So you just got to realize, if you somehow stumble across this video and you're thinking about investing or do invest in Coinbase shares, not only are you investing in an IPO, which basically the two greatest investors of the last 100 years have just told you that they've never ever bought one and they probably wouldn't recommend it, but moreover than that, this is probably going to be the largest direct listing ever. So, think about it. If you can find an unusual share that's valued at $20 million, say, or £20 million, whatever, something that has been very unloved and people haven't seen, and it's dropped in value quite a lot over the last year or 2 years, but you have done a bit of research, you can see that they're not in much debt, or they have decent cash flow, they don't have cash flow problems, or they're making more gross profit, more net profit than they were last year and the year before, and there's potentially new sales or deals in the pipeline, different reasons to expect future revenue growth and share, just different reasons to make you think that there might be greater share price appreciation in the future. Perhaps that $20 million company could be valued at $40 million, and whatever your investment is, if that happens, your investment will double, because the share price, the market capitalization of that company will double. Now, if you're investing in Coinbase at $100 billion, you're going to need it to increase to $200 billion just for it to double, just for you to double your investment. So, I mean, this isn't impossible, so I wouldn't completely rule people out of it, but I'm just saying, because, especially in cryptocurrency, because things are so crazy speculative and very volatile, but we're now entering the share world and the real world of, it's all the real world, but you know what I mean? Like, in shares, that would be a very abnormal thing to see happen, and it's just something for you to think about. You're really gonna have to be putting your trust in something happening which has never happened before in order for this IPO to perform very well, especially coming in at such a large initial valuation. Let's just see here as well. One other thing I saw, so this is pretty positive news, but it's positive in terms of a directional move, but it's also kind of a negative in a way. The latest results from Coinbase show just how tied the company's revenues are to the underlying crypto leader Bitcoin. As Bitcoin's doubled in price in the first quarter of 2021, Coinbase's revenue has surged. Coinbase has said that revenue for quarter 1 2021 will likely be 1.8 billion versus 1.3 billion for the full year of 2020. So in a way, that's substantially higher. That's just one quarter, seems to be higher than the whole of the previous year. But yeah, there's been such a large crypto bull run, which could continue, that there's obvious reasons for that increase. But I just want you to look at it like this: like, say even that revenue for quarter of 2021, instead of 1.8 billion, say it was 2 billion, right, being more generous, and you extrapolate that across a year, that would leave you with 8 billion in revenue for 2021. Again, being generous there. So if you've a company which is making 8 billion in revenue and it's currently valued at 100 billion, way over 10 times that, 12 times that or something, it's just something for you to think about. I just don't know where they get these valuations from, and for me, I would just be cautious of investing in it, because again, it comes down to that idea of margin of safety. I just don't want to invest in, like, I don't see any reason why a month from now Coinbase couldn't be trading at 50 billion. You know, just a 50% drop. Now, equally, it could be twice as much. It could be 200 billion, but for me, it's just gambling. Whenever you've zero grasp in terms of where is this? You know, what's the underlying intrinsic value of this company, this stock? Should I invest in it? You know, you have no idea. You've no idea, and you've no edge. You've no added knowledge that other people don't have, because all your knowledge is based on the hype and the news flow, and you're going to try and, you know, piggyback off that, hoping that that further speculation and demand will push it higher. But there's so much hype already to begin with that you got to trade off whether or not it's a good investment. And for those two gents, it obviously isn't. Now, that was a 2-year-old video looking at the Uber IPO, but it's just something to think about, you know. Last thing I just want to show you. So Pensionbee valued at 384 million. So before their IPO, 384 million, right? I just want to show you again here, just in terms of like what little fundamentals it shows here. Pensionbee remains loss making, so they're literally making a loss. They're valued allegedly approximately at 384 million for their IPO. Its revenues were up 77%, which looks good on paper. Window dressing, 77%, brilliant in 2020, to 6.3 million. So although it climbed loads in terms of revenue, the revenue in 2020 was 6.3 million. 6.3 million revenue, and their valuation is 384 million. Like, those numbers they're not even close. How do you gauge, you know, a market value of 384 million? You know, what is that, 50 times higher than its annual turnover? Never mind the fact that it's actually loss making. So, you know, these are things that you should consider whenever you're looking at potentially investing in an IPO. This would actually concern me as well, because I know a lot of people are moving towards Pensionbee in the UK in terms of consolidating existing pensions and things like this. But say there is a big massive financial crash straight after Pensionbee floating on the stock exchange. It's not exactly a tried and tested company, and if it has serious, you know, cash flow problems as a result of a crash or something like that, I wouldn't want to have my pension sitting in it, actually. So another thing just to think about. But anyway, hopefully some decent information for you here to think about. And yeah, hope you're well. Much love. God bless. Keep the faith.